Hi, everybody, and welcome to night 4 of Robert's Haunted Pajama Party. So tonight is going to be an interesting night. I've got a lot of interesting stories to tell, and we'll get there in a minute, but I do want to say a special thank you to everyone at Enlightened World Network, Enlightened Living, and obviously Enlightened World Network, for having me on for these 10 days. This is night number 4, and it's been spectacular. We've had so many wonderful viewers who have given comments and questions throughout the series, and so keep them coming. They're really enjoyable. A couple housekeeping things that I want to talk about before we move forward. One, obviously, thank you to Terry Angel. She's behind the scenes and she's running and recording tonight, and she's so busy during the day. And please check out Terry's playlist. She's doing so many things here. I can't keep track of them all. So check her out when you're done watching my show. And also to my husband Mark, because as prop boy and things here, he does a pretty good job of keeping me active and keeping me settled to do what I do. So
for very little pay.
No pay. So I do want to thank Mark. A couple other things. One, again, as the last couple of nights, so do please, if you would, say some prayers for Matthew Delfino and for Stephen Kennedy. And also, it's also the 50th anniversary of the Kent State shootings. I won't go through. There were four people who died 50 years ago today in those shootings for the Vietnam protests that were going on at Kent State University at the time, and 9 wounded. And it not only affected those people, but it affected all the families that were there, that were in the National Guard. So for everyone and their families and the people who in particular lost their lives that day or were injured that day, please keep them in your prayers today too on this grim anniversary of this Kent State shootings. So I think what we're going to do today is I'm going to channel my inner Tina Turner here, and we're going to take the first part of this show and make it nice and easy. And we're going to take the second part of the show and do it rough. I can't. Mark, quit screwing with my notes. I can't say that. Turn the page. Sorry, everybody. Now we got it back. Yeah. So tonight, what we're going to do, I want to start out and put a little levity in, because this is the night that kind of terrifies me. I think I told everybody yesterday, one of the things that I had great difficulty with as a child was my fear of the things that I was seeing. And I interpreted that as fear of my gift. So tonight, I want to talk to particularly those light workers out there who have fear about what they see and what they do, and sometimes don't step into their own authentic beings because they're afraid to show who they are. They're afraid of their gift, or they're afraid to voice their gift in some way. And the other day with Ruth and Terry and Deb and everybody for 12 hours, I really learned so much about my own authentic self and my truth, and telling that truth so that people better understand where I'm coming from and why my mission is what my mission is. Okay, so tonight we've got a few stories. So I want to set the scene a little bit with my childhood to kind of get you to that place before I tell my story, so you can kind of understand what happened to me and why I turned off my gift for a while. I started out at 4 years old and seeing Native Americans in the woods. And that was a peaceful, loving, wonderful process for me. They were non-threatening. They helped me out. They guided me. I knew I was protected. I never felt in fear of anything while I was working with those spirits outside. They were never in the house at that point. I always went outside to encounter them. After that, I'm going to kind of take you rapidly through here. After that, as I started to mature from 4 to about 6, 7, I was on the top bunk of a bunk bed, and my little brother Brian slept below me, and my brother Rick had a bed off on the other side of the room. And we, every night when I would go to bed, I would start to see, again, I'm up on the top bunk, and I would start to see this line of spirits form from outside the bedroom door, and there would be a line of people, spirits, coming to see me standing next to the bed. So I'd see them from about chest high and up every night. And at that point of my development as a medium, I couldn't understand them. I could see their lips moving. They were trying to talk to me, but I could see them clearly as I see people on the street today. But I couldn't understand them. Then I had a pivotal moment when I was about 11 years old or so, when my grandfather on my mom's side died. The night that he passed, he came to me, sat on the edge of the bed, and we talked for a couple of minutes. And after that conversation, he told me to go to sleep. And about 5 hours later, my mom came in and said, "Grandpa died last night." I said, "I know, he was here." And she said, "What?" And I didn't realize that other people kind of didn't see what I saw or had those interactions. And that was kind of like a real turning point for me. My mom said, "Don't ever tell anybody that story." And then I thought I did something wrong. But right after that experience, that kind of opened me up after that, were the people who were coming into the room and standing next to the bed every night I was able to hear them now. And it was scary. Most of them, I have to say, were very, very nice spirits. There wasn't anything that was absolutely horrendous. It was just kind of terrifying. I knew my other two brothers didn't see this, and I did. And of course, as a child, I thought it was crazy. You know, nobody else saw these things, and I did. And I'm communicating with them and talking with them. But it got to a point where at night I would pull the covers over my head because I didn't want to see them. I wanted them to go away. So if you ever saw the movie The Sixth Sense, where the little kid would go into a tent in his room, or would cover his head, or use his jacket to block his eyes, that's what I did. I could still hear them, but seeing them was terrifying. So I took that experience, and that happened every night, and it was just something to really uh, uh, hard to work with as a child. And I wish I had somebody like me then that could have talked to me then. But we'll get to that in a minute. So what happened at this point was, while I was starting to hear them and talk to them, one night there was nobody in the room, and I was taken aback because, again, there had been spirits in my room every evening, and now here we are with this night where there are no spirits, and I didn't know what to do with that. So again, I kind of kept my head covered in case they showed up. So I kind of started to fall asleep. And so to set the scene a little bit more here, again, I'm on the top bunk, my little brother's on the bottom bunk, and there's probably maybe a 6-inch gap in the wall between us. And every now and again, I kind of whisper down to my brother Brian, "Hey Brian, what's going on? Can you hear me?" Kind of thing. And we'd talk maybe a little bit, so mom and dad would hear us, and try and get away with the conversation, or maybe pass comic books to one another. So this evening, again, with no spirits in the room, what was terrifying was I pulled the covers back off of my head. And when I did that, I saw the scariest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. There was, if you've seen probably maybe a Freddy Krueger movie or seen a Freddy Krueger mask, if you can imagine somebody standing there, I only saw from kind of chest high, but right then there was the deep. It was red. It was on fire. It was glowing. It wasn't saying anything, just smirking at me. And I was absolutely petrified. I don't know how to explain how frightening this actually was to me, but I couldn't scream. I couldn't scream, but I also couldn't take my eyes off of him. I just was staring at him, and he just stared straight into my eyes. It felt like he was staring at my soul, and I could not move. I was petrified. I'm trying to scream. I'm trying to move, but I'm just glued there. And when that happened, I finally somehow managed to kind of keep backing away from that side of the bed, moving myself toward the wall. And as I did that, I got closer, a little bit closer, and I'm still trying to scream and trying to say something. And I finally managed to turn, and I stared down, calling down in that 6-inch gap between there. I got my little face in between the wall and the mattress. I'm, "Brian, Brian, Brian," calling down to him, and there was no answer. And then all of a sudden, as I'm calling down there, this head comes from underneath his bed, on the bottom bunk and looks up straight at me and starts to laugh. And I have to say, I've never been so frightened since before this or since from this night. It was pivotal in my life. It changed me, how I looked at spirit. It was so nice and so calm at times before this to have my grandfather and that wonderful energy, and to have this experience that was absolutely terrifying. And for some reason, somehow, there's obviously a ladder that went up to the top bunk. And when that happened, I kicked the ladder or something, and the ladder fell. And it woke up the house because that ladder coming down off of the bunk hit the floor hard. And my parents came running in the room to see what happened. And I could not speak. I could not talk. I couldn't articulate anything that happened. And it was tough to talk about. Again, growing up in a very Catholic family, talking about these types of things. And I'm not going to, it's kind of like, in the Harry Potter films, Voldemort, it's he who must not be named. I won't say who or what this was next to my bed. It was just absolutely terrifying. And from that moment on, I changed. And I was absolutely petrified. I didn't want to see spirit anymore. I didn't want to work with it. Didn't want to try and interact with the spirits that were in the room. And what happened from that point on was I basically kind of became paralyzed in the fear of the gift. And every night from then on, I would sleep with the covers over my head. I kind of turned off my gift at that point. I would still see spirits. I would go over play dates at friends' houses and things of that nature. And I would kind of sit at the, with them on a couch or something, playing games or whatever. I may see a couple of spirits on the couch with us or across the room or moving curtains or doing something. I never acknowledged them. I just refused to acknowledge them after that point. I just didn't want anything to do with them. I just decided to turn off my gift. And so that was kind of the first real story that really changed me into questioning what this was as a gift. I didn't know anything about being a medium. I didn't know about anything. I just knew that I saw and talked to dead people, couldn't talk to anybody about it. That experience, I tell you that story, and I've never told that story publicly ever, because it is so personal, and because it to this day still, when I think about it, I still get goosebumps when I think about it. But I want to take that power away from the story, so that it's out there and people know what I went through and why I turned off my gift. And I know that there are people out there who are turning off their gift for similar reasons. They may see a ghost or they see a spirit. They don't understand what it is. And they just say, I don't want any part of that. I will hear you, but I don't want to see you. I don't want to. And this fear is causing some of us to turn off our gift. So I'm going to leave it there for a second and tell you another encounter that really made me turn it off after this experience. So the second story, wait a minute. Oh, by the way, it's gin and tonic night. No, gin and cranberry night. Or no, vodka cranberry. Thank you. I haven't had much yet. I still can't get it right. So the second story was I had gone through those years between when I started having this horrible experience at about 13 years old. And I'm going to segue here. By the way, there are some times when I work with my clients, and I do work with a lot of burgeoning psychics and burgeoning mediums. And a lot of times I'll go to a home where there's a haunting or something's happening in the house. They don't realize that their children are gifted. And a lot of times that gift shifts when children hit puberty. For whatever reason, when their hormones change and there are different balances in the system, sometimes they become more active and being able to be perceptive. So if you're out there and you have a child who is reaching puberty, or they've reached that and then they've changed a little bit in some way, or they say that they're saying spirit, please take them seriously, because it does sometimes kind of up that factor a little bit when they're kind of awakening as beings in another way through their hormones. So I do want to talk to you a little bit about this when I did leave this gift for a little while and kind of ignored it. But the real case for me stopping totally for a while, for more than a decade, was I kind of went through those teen years where I would go over to people's houses or would see them and ignore them, uh, or old barns when I would do babysitting jobs, and I would be at this old farmhouse, and I would sense spirit, see spirit at these old houses, and I tried to my best to ignore them. So finally, 18 years old, and I did my first year of college in Spain. And so the family that I lived with in Spain, lovely family, beautiful family. I still talk to them to this day. I actually talked with them last week. They're just beautiful people, beautiful souls. And uh, the two smallest brothers that were in this house at the time would do sailing competitions every weekends at Pantano, at a little lake someplace. So we go to the sea, to the lake, inland lakes, or wherever to go sailing every weekend, every other weekend, at least a couple times a month. And this one time, so I'd been living in Spain maybe 5 months or so, and we were on one of these weekend trips where we had a sailing competition, and we were at a hotel. And again, I pick up a lot of things at hotels. I've given a hotel story. There's another one of those hotel stories coming in this series. But at this hotel in Spain, it was an old hotel, maybe a couple hundred years old, 200, 300 years old, and lovely place from the outside, or if you don't sense things. But when we got there, it was one of these hotels that was very old, so they didn't have bathrooms in every room. They had kind of a communal bathroom that you had to go to on the floor. So again, I always slept with my covers over my head because of the things that I would see. That didn't stop. I still kind of do that a little bit to this day. Now I kind of lock the bedroom door because I kind of know whether there's spirit, kind of not. If they had to bust down the door if they were people. Um, but at this time in Spain, we had a lovely day. It was beautiful, sunny day. We had a great competition. It was great meals, and everybody went back to their rooms in the evening. And I was sharing this particular hotel room with my two Spanish brothers, who were probably 13, 14 at the time, maybe a little bit younger, 12 and 14 maybe. And while we were there, I had a really bad feeling. So the beds were arranged where two beds were kind of foot to head against one wall, and I had a larger bed across the room, and there was for some reason a closet right next to the bed. Like you couldn't open it because so they had it was open already, and they had like two hangers hanging it. It was the strangest thing, but I had a bad feeling about this hotel room, and I don't know what it was. And again, I was trying not to tap into things at this era, so I didn't know what it was. All I knew was I had a really bad feeling. So that night, after dinner, and dinner in Spain is late, 10 o'clock. So it's maybe 11:30, midnight, and we get to bed. So we have another competition in the morning, and everybody's in bed. My two brothers are laying head to head, and they're kind of chit chatting a little bit. They're all talking a little bit, and finally they get sleepy, and have to get up early in the morning. So they finally fell asleep, and I'm still awake a little bit. And I keep looking over at the closet, and it's kind of like right next to the bed, but I just don't like this. And finally, I'm laying there, and I'm laying there, and the feeling is getting worse and worse. And so finally, I kind of wanted to feel, hear one of my brothers. So I kind of coughed loud, trying to get my brother's attention to wake them up because I'm not feeling great. I didn't want to be alone, dealing with this. But nobody moved. Nobody said anything. And then all of a sudden, I was pinned. I was pinned to the bed. I could not move. I was laying on my stomach. I was asleep on my stomach. And I was pinned. I couldn't move. I tried. I couldn't move, and then I couldn't scream again with the same issue that I had years before. I couldn't vocalize anything, and I don't even know what to say about it. If you've never had that experience, it's absolutely terrifying to not be able to scream, to move, to be able to do anything, and know that something somewhere is keeping you immobile. I don't know how to describe that. And in my panic, I didn't know what to do with that. And then the bed started to shake, and it started to move and shake and wiggle, and do some things. And then it started to move off the ground. It didn't move far, but enough to know that I was not touching the ground. I don't know how far up I was. Again, I was pinned to the bed. I couldn't see. I couldn't move. I was trying to scream. I was trying to do anything I could to maneuver. And it probably, to me now, seems like an eternity that this went on. But it may have been 30 seconds. I don't really know how long it was. I just know that I was just paralyzed in fear. And then the bed just dropped to the floor. And the moment that the bed dropped to the floor, my two brothers woke up and they're like, what was that? They had no idea what had happened. And I'm huffing and puffing and trying to breathe and trying to get my breath back. And I was so bad, I actually got up, ran out of the room. And my two Spanish brothers, Roberto, ¿qué haces? They're trying to chase me down this hallway. I refused to go back into that room. It was probably now 1 o'clock in the morning. I just couldn't go back to the room. I actually spent the entire night out on a balcony, overlooking this beautiful lake there. I refused, and they went and had probably 2 or 3 more competitions at that place while I lived in Spain for that year. I absolutely steadfastly refused to go back to this hotel. It was that terrifying. If I knew then what I know now, I probably could have dealt with it. But I didn't know what to do. Again, I was trying to turn off my gift. I was trying to avoid it. And I guess what I want to kind of do tonight, again, these ghost stories I told about other people before, but these are very personal tonight for a particular reason. And that's that sometimes there's energy out there that wants you to turn off your light. And as light workers, you can't let that happen. You have to persevere. And once I understood years later, because then I shut my gift off for about 10 years, I refused to work with anything that had to do with spirit. I lost myself. I basically, quite frankly, lost my faith a little bit, I have to say. I was like, why would God do this to me? Why would he torture me this way? Why am I going through this? And it really made me question everything. My mom was a salutatorian of an all-girls Catholic school in Cleveland, so I grew up very Catholic in that way. And after that experience with my grandfather when I was younger, I kind of embraced the church and went to church every week. I was an altar boy for years, and because I felt safe there. But after these experiences, I thought something was wrong. I thought that there was so much negative energy around me. I didn't know how to deal with it. And then I realized that there were forces out there trying to knock me off my game. And they do that still to this day. When I go to hauntings, there will be, I'll go to see a client and there may be something really nasty that I'm dealing with. And they will get me in the car. They will get me in my dream state. They will get me when I'm there and tell me, I don't know what I'm doing. You're not good enough to do this. You don't have the power to do this. And I managed to do it every time. Why? Because I put my faith back in God. I put my faith back in myself. And accepting my gift for who and what I'm supposed to do on this plane. I call on Archangel Michael, Archangel Azrael. I call on my spirit guides. I work with them now, but it took me a long time to get there. So the kind of the moral of the story tonight is don't let spirit tune you out. You have a gift, you have a voice, you have a talent. Use it. It may not be the same as mine. It may not be the same as Terry's angels. It may not be the same as anybody else's out there. God gives you a unique gift. Find your gift, find your voice, find your light, and don't let anybody put that out. And especially spirit, because there are negative spirits out there who may try to change your course because you're doing something good. They know that you're here to do good in this world, and they may try and scare you away from it. Much like I have clients, who have things in their life now that are trying to scare them. My job now, because I was never comfortable as a child, my mission is now to make people comfortable in their own homes or in their business or on their land. That's my gift. So I can see, sense, and feel what's there, help that energy cross. And if it's something that's really bad, at least get them someplace else where they can't do any harm to the people that they're causing harm to now. So I know this was kind of more an intense evening, more so for me, maybe than for you, because they're my stories. To you, they're just stories. To me, it's my life and something that I had to get through and had to move past. So if you have children that are gifted, if you are gifted and you don't feel comfortable with your gift, I urge you, seek out a more experienced medium, someone who's gone through this process before. Don't reinvent the wheel. I wish I would have known people when I was younger that I could have asked advice of and from, so that it would have made me a better medium. I could have maybe helped more souls earlier than I can now. But I'm trying to do what I can. There's a reason for everything, but I think I had to go through some of those experiences that I had as a child to be that frightened so I could become stronger and find my inner strength to persevere and get past that and move on and be able to do this work in the way that I do this work. So, find your gift, um, embrace who you are. Just if I can leave you with that one message tonight. And if you have any questions about that in any way, feel free to reach out to me. Again, you can reach me at, Robert Painley Medium or rapainley@gmail.com. I'm happy to help. It's what we're supposed to do as we learn. I didn't have it when I was growing up. My job now is to teach that. Some people I work with long term and coach them as an intuitive coach, and some people it's a one-time meeting and just teach people how to protect themselves so that they're not afraid, how to tap into this energy better, so that they aren't afraid any longer and can move forward. I know that there are a lot of people who don't want to do the type of work that I do. I know many people who have had these types of experiences and go on to do validation readings or work with Akashic readings, and all of those are necessary skills. This is not for everybody. This takes some strength, and once you know you're protected. But when I go into these homes now, I know I come. I don't know where that energy. Well, I kind of do. I know where that energy comes from, but there's an inner strength that comes out. I'm told exactly what to do, how to do what I'm supposed to do, and I just follow their instructions. And they're using me as a tool at that moment. It's the energy flowing from another source, from God's light, to be able to do the work that's necessary with my clients. So please find your light, find that inner peace, find that inner strength that you need. And if you need help and somebody to help coach you, reach out to someone. Terry Angel's lovely. She has a beautiful energy about her. There's so many people on Enlightened World Network that can help. So please reach out if you need a resource, if you need that help. Okay. So I know it's a little bit shorter tonight than it has been in the past, and tomorrow's show, we're going to talk about what you do if spirits attach themselves to you or the place that you live. What happens? How you can maybe avoid that from happening, and a couple of ghost stories of perhaps where that has happened, and clients that I've dealt with who have had some attachments to them. So I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow evening. Thank you so much again for joining Robert's Haunted Pajama Party tonight. Thank you for watching, and have a great night.